you gotta love Beowulf. I am exhausted and I'm ready to get it on, and I am tired and I'm trying to look for a little pump up. Beowulf and coffee from Jam and Bean always does the trick. Let's do a sneak peek of the Christmas poll, the national poll, on a special short this Monday. Looks like What Are the Odds is on for 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I wanted to make sure that we got through this today. There were a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First and foremost, I'm thinking I'm going to show you, you're a smart crowd. I'm thinking I'm going to show you the unweighted results because I'm still in the process of weighting stuff. And I'll show you that right now, in fact. However, it is pretty interesting how much how representative this sample was. There are a few things that stood out to me that were a little bit, but I talked to the book club about this yesterday that I'm probably not going to mess with. And yes, as you can tell, I'm pretty sick. You're going to get a more detailed regional demographic because this is a massive survey. So normally we only give the 4 census regions: the Northeast, the Midwest, the South, and the West. But we're also going to do the more detailed breakdown of the other census regions. So you'll get out of the Northeast, you will get New England and the Middle Atlantic. Out of the South, you'll get the South Atlantic, East South Central, West South Central. Out of the Midwest, you'll get East North Central, West North Central. And out of the West, you'll get the Mountain region and Pacific. When you have, a survey that's over 3,000 registered voters, then we can do that. It was also really, again, when it came to gender, a lot of these things, I have to go over with a fine-tooth comb when it comes to region and education, but all of the other demographics looked pretty much spot on. Gender looked spot on. Race was a little bit more to African American, but that's no big deal. And when I talk about a small footprint, I think this is going to be like a 99% weighting variability, like weighting efficiency variable. It is that representative of a sample. Let me just ask you before we get into it, guys, what percentage of the United States do you think celebrates Christmas? Unweighted, and I'm sure it'll tick a little bit higher when we're talking about maybe not, but when we're talking about questions like that, there were a few things that I think geography is going to help with, such as ideology. It was very moderate, but very moderate for what we're used to. 31% conservatives, a little bit too low. So I'm wondering if there's something there. I'm not going to mess with the weighting efficiency over ideology. I'll tell you that right now, especially since everything else is so spot on. Who did you vote for in 2020, for instance? Okay. I'll just give it to you right now. Raw, 49.8 Biden, 45.5 Trump, 2.7 someone else, 2.0 Joe Jorgensen. I said this and I kind of joked on Twitter, but it's true. We are thoroughly in the I didn't vote for that SOB stage of polling a bad presidency. All right. When the president or presidency is bad and the president is unpopular, when you poll that president when you poll and you ask, who did you vote for in the prior election? Voters will begin to lie to you about who it is they voted for because they don't want to admit being responsible for some of this stuff. Okay. Now, most partisans are going to stick to it and say, I voted for Trump. I voted for Biden. But since Biden is the president, and because there is significant base fracture, what we can see, and we know they're lying. How do we know? We could go to a certain state and they're like, I voted for someone else. Well, there was nobody else on the ballot in Georgia. So who did you vote for? They lie. And I get it and I understand, which is one of the reasons why I've advocated in the past that I don't like waiting for prior vote. There's 2 reasons. 1, people lie. And then 2 is, what do you do with the new voter? What do you do with the new voter? Are you just making an assumption based on that new vote? Because I'm not doing that. In 2020, the new voter broke for Biden. In 2024, the new voter is going in ridiculous numbers for Donald Trump. So, how could if you take their demographics and you decide these are younger voters. And last time younger voters went 65, 30, 30, more than that. It was like 67, 32 for Joe Biden. Then I think I'll just apply that to today's numbers. You'd be wrong. You'd be very, very wrong. There actually were some screenshots that I wanted to show you guys because people ask me a lot about, and let me see, bear with me a second, because think about how many, first of all, think about before I bring it up, what percentage you think actually celebrates Christmas in this country. Okay. And then I'm going to bring up some of these screenshots, and I'm not even sure which ones may be right or which ones may not. So bear with me because I'm just bringing them up. But I don't want to show you something that I'm not really dying to show you here. So give me a second. Let me see. Okay, that's the first one as we're waiting for it to load up. All right, perfect. That's the generic ballot. So the first one is the generic ballot. This is how we know. A lot of people say, what about this young vote shift? This is how we know it's real, and this is how we know it's only related to Donald Trump. These voters tell us, I voted for Joe Biden by similar margins than what you would expect, considering what we're just talking about. And then we'll ask them, but who are you going to vote for now? And even though I suspect a lot of them are going to go back to Joe Biden, or they may vote third party, and that's Joe Biden's danger. Even though I suspect that, Donald Trump is still higher than he was in 2020 with this voting group. That's number one. So you know he made some gains. Number two, Republican candidates down ballot are still getting their what's whip among this group. So this group says, I will vote for the generic Democrat. Yet for president, there are many of them that overlap and say, I'll vote for Donald Trump. All right. So actually, let's show that real quick. Okay. Here is we don't want to do that. That's a Democrat. That's the generic ballot. Okay. Here we go. So here's 18 to 29-year-olds. As you can see, Trump is just below 40 with 18 and 29-year-olds. Biden is just over 40. That is very bad. That is more than a 20-point loss in support among those who are 18 to 29. And that's a several-point increase for Trump. Now, remember, sampling errors for some groups are higher. Now you see that there's about 20% of those who say, I'm undecided. Okay, we don't want to show that. Okay. Here is what happens. Whoops, that's the Republican. Here's what happens when you ask those people to decide. So who are you? You have to decide. Make a decision. Out of that 20%, Biden and Trump basically split them. They split them. So what does that mean? It means Trump's going above 40% with 18 to 29-year-olds. It means Biden's getting to like 50. 52. 52-ish. 53-ish. It's single digits. Kind of looks like the margin between Glenn Youngkin and Terry McAuliffe in the 2021 gubernatorial election in Virginia. Now, they're not comparable for vote preference for president. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about maybe, especially if you consider how well Trump did in 2020 with some younger groups, we didn't talk about it because he lost. Maybe we really shouldn't be all that surprised by this. Now, here is what happens when you ask these very same voters who they're going to vote for the generic ballot. Obviously, Democrats are not doing where they need to be. They're getting about 44%, a little over, just almost a tenth away from rounded up to 45. Republicans, however, are still around 30%. Someone else, third party, has fallen to 12.6 and undecided still 11.5. Even if they were to split those undecideds the way that Biden and Trump split, which is not going to happen. But let's say they do. Why am I saying it's not going to happen? Because Democrats on the generic ballot are outperforming Biden. Republicans on the generic ballot with this voter group are underperforming Trump. So even if we assume they break at the same margin right now, they're going to underperform Trump by about 10 points with voters under 30, at least. This is a big problem. Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania, this is a big problem. You're going to need every vote. Listen, Republicans are so stupid. And I'm sorry, I just can't help it. Everything I said this cycle has come to fruition, so I've really lost my patience. Just like, by the way, I told you more than 6 months ago that Jeff Rowe would exit eventually, a loser, and that he will destroy the Florida governor's career, or help to anyway. He's a grown-ass man, like I said before. But that he'll run away millions of dollars richer after destroying the careers of a bunch of former MAGA people who thought, because Jeff Rowe convinced them, including friends of mine, careers ruined, never be back allowed in MAGA world. I hope the short mill was worth it for you. Watch, this guy will get involved in Senate races now and do everything in his power to create what we're seeing right here. It's people like him that have really screwed the Republican Party. They needed to be united behind the guy who obviously had more upside potential than they ever had. I'm sorry, it's not because I'm not saying everyone's always like I think they mistake what my job is or something. I'm not saying this because I support Donald Trump. I'm saying it's because it's true. Just put it right in front of your face. Should we go over? I should cut for it for a New Year's special. I should have Laura or somebody, one of the employees, go through all the episodes where I threw bombs. You know, they weren't even supposed to be bombs, but I threw out these bold predictions like that with this very pie graph in front of you right now. Donald Trump has hit 60% for the first time in the primary. What a grafter. We should go over all of those and slap the dates up. And Trump proceeded since then. But there's no doubt I was right about that. There's no doubt that the white vote was not evaporating. By the way, Donald Trump outperforms Republicans, generic Republicans among white voters slightly too. It's just that he really outperforms them among Hispanics and black voters and younger voters and on and on and on, and urban voters and rural voters and suburban voters. 5 points. We should go back and make a montage video, and then with so me saying it and then the reactions. You know, we should do that. We really should. All right. So moving on here. Moving on. All right. So there's that. All right. Let me show you some of this and get into it. I'm trying not to show too much here. All right. I'm trying to make sure that we go through. Again, let's see. There will be a lot of Democrats who vote in their primaries. Maybe not in the early states. Maybe that'll look like it's abysmal turnout because of what Joe Biden did to the calendar, but not looking great. Just out of curiosity, if I go and look at my trend for right track, wrong track, I don't know if you guys have it in front of you. It's on the front of Big Data Poll anyway, in the portfolio section, but right track, wrong track, where are you? I am curious where that's approve, disapprove. Where the hell is right track, wrong track? Here it is. All right, so prior poll, wrong track was at 65, right direction was at 25. I'm just curious where we're ballpark at. Yeah, ballpark the same. Not that big of a deal. Look, Joe Biden, we are a registered voter poll. When you do the adult sample, Joe Biden's approval is weaker. It's one of those things, the world is upside down right now. Speaking of which, the registered voter sample is R+1. The adult sample is R+4. So register voters, Republicans, and stop spending money, wasting money on things you're never going to accomplish anyway. But in any event, I digress. We're never going to have Pew. Not yet at this point anyway. We're like 33% approve of Joe Biden. We will still have Joe Biden at around, don't quote me here, but around 40, 42%, 40, 41%, something like that. There is, I don't want to give it away, but there is a bombshell with the Republican primary. There is a historic first for a Big Data Poll when it comes to the two-party vote share. We've never seen this happen before, and this is the first time. There is a drop in the appetite for someone else, third party. In other words, the two-party vote share is rising. Okay. What else I can give you before we move on to Christmas here? Okay. You know what? Let's just move on to Christmas. There's quite a bit, but let's move on to Christmas. And this is going to be a short stream, so I can try to crunch some more numbers before Robert and I do what are the odds. All right, because let me just say this too. I do think I'm not applying this analysis to every single battleground state, because I am seeing states like Pennsylvania and elsewhere where Kennedy wants to get on the ballot, where he still is hurting Donald Trump more. However, nationally, the national numbers are starting to get a little bit more clear that for now, Trump's base is more solidified than Biden. So you present those voters with any other option, and they fracture more for Biden than they do for Trump. So for now, it looks like Kennedy is hurting Biden a little bit more nationally. It was not that clear last time. We'll see. We'll see when I add the undecideds, because what's going to be very cool this time is that we asked our first round, but then we also asked people to decide. No, we didn't ask them. We forced them to decide, and we gave them very different scenarios. What if it's just Trump and Biden and there's no third party option? Okay, and then we got that number, and then we gave them a chance for to choose, obviously undecided, but then we made them decide. We want to give you both numbers, so what's going on. It's very debatable how some people report undecided votes. Okay, it is not a good idea to report undecided votes. Just I'm telling you, it's my opinion. By allocation, if you don't make people decide. And it's like, well, of course, Rich, duh. No, you'd be surprised. You really would be surprised how many people do that. They allocate based on what they know about the demographics and how they voted in making those decisions. Like I just went over 18 to 29-year-olds with you. However, I'm not a huge fan of doing that all the time. So just keep that in mind. All right. For me, I like to force them to answer, and then I'll present you with both numbers. All right, so we did Biden and Trump, no third party option. We did Biden and Trump with a generic third party, no name. And then we made them decide with giving them that third party option. So when we asked people to decide, it wasn't only just for Trump or Biden. Then we did Trump, Biden, or Biden, Trump, Kennedy, a generic, I believe it was a generic someone else. Let me just make sure. Whoa, I almost went through something that I didn't want to show you. Oh, by the way, just to tease the turning point, because I was just looking at it, just to tease the turning point straw poll. Interesting stuff. Really, really interesting stuff. Yeah, we did do a generic third party, someone else with Kennedy, and then asked them to decide. And then we did the full ballot. Biden, Trump, Kennedy, Lars Mapstead, Jill Stein, and Cornel West without another option. And then we asked them to decide on those undecideds. Yeah, so there we have it. And we'll give you both those numbers. What it was before we leaned them or made them decide. It's better, more accurate way to say it. And then where they were after. All right. Okay, so should I get into this? All right, let me go through some of your answers and see what your best guesses are for Christmas. What percentage of the registered voter population do you think celebrates Christmas in this 90 plus, DH 1776? That's the first one I saw, so I'm going with it. And absolutely, DH, you are 100% correct. It is 90, and you can see this is thousands, it's a huge sample. 91 unweighted, which will probably push it to 92, maybe 92 point something. I don't think the weights are going to do that much, are going to change all of that much. Everything just looks so good to me, that, we're talking about a very, very light weighting variable here. 91.2 is the raw, 8.8 is that they don't. What else should we show you real quick? We asked people, do you or your family do the following to celebrate Christmas or not? And we're going to go over this in a lot more detail, and we're going to dig into some demographics with the Christmas poll. You guys are the first getting a sneak peek of the unweighted results. All right. Do you put up a Christmas tree? 86% say they do. Do you put up decorations other than a Christmas tree? 86%. Do you display decorations? Now, this is stuff we're going to get into uh, in more detail this week. Do you display decorations with a religious meaning, such as nativity sets? 56% say they do. You get together with family and friends on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? 90%. So basically, almost everyone who celebrates Christmas gets together with family or friends. You could imagine, folks, you can imagine how brutal the COVID lockdowns were for people. And I'm talking about on their psyche. Do you attend religious services on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? About half and half say yes and no. That's big to me, considering the answers to some of these other questions. Do you attend religious services? Half and half. Exchange gifts? 92. Do you reflect on or celebrate the birth of Christ? Is over a super majority. Well, that's funny. That's a lot more people who actually go to church, number one. Number two, it's a lot more who say that they view it as a very or religious holiday, which I'm not going to show you right now, but you will see in the future this week. There is a crisis of faith in this country coming from the church and faith leaders. Dr. Steve Turley, good guy, really good guy, has done a lot of analysis on this. And my pastor has written extensively about the rise of the nuns. That's why I love the guy. He's like, quotes survey data. It's like, oh, what else could I ask for in a pastor? Says, worry if you're a Christian, worry about the new covenant more than the old covenant. It's very much on my level. Welcome, people. Welcome, redemption. Don't be hypocrites. Don't be judgmental. Don't be holier than thou. The church has a problem with some of those lessons because people don't believe they're living up to their height. Anyway, Steve Turley, Dr. Turley, has done a lot with the so-called rise of the nuns. No religious affiliation. Well, we're going to look at this in more detail this week for the show, Inside the Numbers. Obviously, we're going to save it for that. Are they really nuns? And are nuns synonymous with atheists? The answer is no. There are a lot of people in this country who believe in God, who want a relationship with God, but have no interest in having a relationship with a church or so-called leaders of faith. Gallup, who had asked questions like this for years before they abandoned us all because they missed one election in 50 years, poo-poo. They have done a lot of research on stuff like this. And basically, some of you may be too young for this, but the evangelical church got double whammied by the scandal of Jimmy Swaggart and others and the Robinsons and others. And I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying when there are scandals that make people look like hypocrites, it's a problem. And then the George Bush era came in with the evangelical president, and he was a total hypocrite. Oh, I'm super pro-life until I murder and maim 1 million innocent Iraqis. If you think that doesn't have an impact on people, you'd be wrong. Excuse me, let me take a sip of water. Holy crap, I need a cup of tea. Same thing goes for the Catholic Church. Same thing goes for the Catholic Church. The scandal, you have the Archdiocese covering up pedophilia. You think that doesn't hurt the Catholic Church? It does. Adam. Good for you, Adam. Adam's more evangelical than some people who call themselves evangelicals. He said, time to convert to Orthodox Christianity. The Orthodox Church is what people are looking for. It's out there. Come and see. Seriously. And what was amazing to me is um, you could go through some of Gallup's own research with this. They set the standard for what is an evangelical. And people ask me a lot, why do our evangelical numbers sometimes look different? Well, we'll separate white evangelicals with all of people that call themselves evangelicals. And we'll ask people who are non-Catholic um, whether or not they believe they are evangelicals because of the traditional definition. However, Gallup and exit pollsters and others, they don't count anyone who's not white as an evangelical, even when you see it. I was baptized Eastern Orthodox, actually, Jonathan. I was Greek Orthodox. It's true. I am obviously not. I was baptized Greek Orthodox and raised Roman Catholic, but now I'm a Protestant. But I would actually call myself non-denominational. But if I was being polled, I'd choose Protestant, other Christian. And it's just truly amazing how much opportunity this country still has when it comes to faith and how we obsess over the decline of faith in this country. The truth is, it's not a decline in faith. I mean, there's no doubt. There's a rise of true, people who are agnostic or atheists. There's a rise in that. It's just not as big as it looks like when you're looking at polls. Because that 20-something% who says no religion or other, it's not necessarily true that they don't believe in God. It's not even necessarily true that they don't believe in Jesus. And we know this from our Easter polling as well. Do you believe in the resurrection? And it's like, I don't have a religion. Yes, I believe Jesus Christ was resurrected. What? It seems so counterintuitive, but it's really not when you consider how the church has behaved over the last 50 plus more years. I mean, sorry. I don't mean to, not trying to dog anybody here, but that's a funny one. I'm going to leave that one alone. Let me just bring this up, though. I will show you this based on that. So that's the question about whether or not Americans view this as an inherently Christian, or an inherent religious holiday. Given that more than 2/3 say they take the Christmas to reflect on the birth of the Christ, the Messiah, yet only 35%, only 33% in the raw, again, told us that it was a strongly religious holiday. Another 35 said somewhat religious. Another 28 said not too religious, but it's still religious. That's huge. That is the fault of the church. I'm not taking the time to get on the pedestal here, folks, but I'm just giving you my professional point, my professional opinion. And my professional opinion is this is the church's fault. This is not God's fault. This isn't even the message's fault. People still want it. They still are yearning for it. How many people sit home and think about Christ? They obviously are celebrating Christmas because they're yearning for something in their heart. Yet the church isn't capitalizing on it. I find this sad. No wonder why every year it looks like it's more and more commercial. The flock does not have good shepherds to lead them. I'm sorry. That's where it's at. There's no other explanation for these numbers. I thought we were going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to be real. I thought on the question of, do you celebrate Christmas? Yes, no, no opinion. We were going to get, 2/3 who say they celebrate Christmas. Yeah. Easter's usually less, but I really thought that's where we were right now. God, you look at the culture. You look at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day and Christmas parades. It does not appear that people celebrate Christmas in this fashion in this country like that anymore. It's all about swank and skank. The main event is Santa. Has nothing to do with Jesus. Look at the miracle on 34th Street. You look back at the old Macy Day parades, you'd have seen a damn angel or something. By the way, notice now that they're down to Biden. Did you guys watch the Macy's Thanksgiving parade? Because I stopped allowing my children to watch it after they put all of these outward displays of aberrant behavior. I'm sorry. I don't want my son or daughter, I don't want to have to explain to them what a tranny in a turkey costume is. Like, I'm not doing that crap. And Hallmark, you better get on the damn ball. Because Great American Christmas is going to spank you in the next couple of years you keep this up. This year, they didn't show any of that crap. Why? They're not bold anymore? Huh? Maybe because you're down and you don't want to repeat of 2016 when you just thought. And don't tell me Christmas wasn't on the assault before Trump won the election in 2016. This is unbelievable that this many people celebrate this holiday. I mean, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, there are Jews and Muslims in this that tell us they celebrate Christmas. That's how confused this country is spiritually. There are people who say they have no religion, who celebrate Christmas and tell us it's still spiritual. Wait till you see these crosstabs. It's really quite incredible. This country is rudderless spiritually. Rudderless. It's incredible. Poor, starving souls. And then what do they get? They take to X, formerly known as Twitter. What are they going to get? I'm not even going to say their names to elevate them, but you know who I'm talking about. These holier than thou fake Christians on the right. They don't believe in redemption. Nope. They don't believe in forgiveness. Like, why the hell would anybody follow your church? Mocking someone like Hunter Biden for having a drug addiction is not Christian. Mocking him for being a crook, fine, fair game. Not supporting the First Step Act is not Christian. And it's not smart. The recidivism rate is less. Far less. It's a wildly successful program. How could you preach redemption? And this new debate over, it's not the way. Don't go in that state capitol and decapitate the Satan statue. You don't violate man's laws. Really? I don't remember Jesus Christ lobbying the Sadducees and the Pharisees before he went into the house of the money changers at the temple. I really had some person to reply to me and say, that's Roman law, though. That's okay. He broke Jewish law. That's not the same. First of all, the second temple had a big ass gold Roman eagle on the top of it because Herod put it there as a tribute to his Roman friends. The second temple was Roman property. Read a book. Particularly one in particular, actually. And then maybe you'd have a better grip on this stuff. Let's take a break. It's just unbelievable. Like I said, this is why. And they can go on and on all they want, but the fact of the matter is, who's logically look at it, anecdotally look at it, who's right, who's wrong? If they were right, we wouldn't have this problem. We captain now. That's a great question. The recidivism rate for those who were released under the jailbreak bill, as they call it, is about 4 times less than the normal recidivism rate. More than that, actually. I think consider it's like 4.5 times. The recidivism rate is only like 14%. It's significantly lower. And states who also implemented the federal bill as a template at the state level have also seen a great deal of success. It's a very, very successful bill. But yep. Yeah, I mean, Herod also worshipped Roman gods. What the hell are these people talking about, Jillian? Exactly. It's just ignorance, and that's tragic. We'd have to do the right thing, lobby the government to change the law. Not to mention, you don't get freedom of religion as a friggin' Satan worshiper. He's the anti-religion. He's literally the anti-religion. The founders would never have thought one day, maybe we should put this explicitly in the Constitution, because one day there may be a significant amount of idiots in this country, so many simpletons, that we have to explicitly lay out that satanic ritual is not covered by the First Amendment. Holy shit, man, dude. By the way, Charlie, if it wasn't for Kevin McCarthy, that guy would be serving in Congress right now instead of Michael Guest, who Mike Cassidy forced into a runoff in Mississippi 3 back in 22. And McCarthy decided to open the coffers in that tiny little district, super conservative R+30, and spend a slew of money smearing Michael Cassidy to make sure that Guest was safe. So they maligned the hell out of him. He didn't have the money to fight back, and he got crushed in the runoff, which is weird because he actually beat Cassidy in the first round, but he got crushed in the runoff. And if it wasn't for Kevin McCarthy, you'd have Michael Cassidy in Mississippi 3 right now. But instead, you have Michael Guest, who lets Democrats who pull fire alarms in the middle of speaker votes go. Let's take a real quick break and do a read, shall we? Boy, before I can't even speak anymore. Tell you that. Listen, I've introduced you guys to the Wellness Company and their medical emergency kit a couple of weeks ago, and now this product is another one that I genuinely believe every American should be taking regularly, or at the very least have on hand for when it's necessary. It's called Spike Support, so listen up. If you're not thinking that something is up at this point with so many previously healthy people experiencing myocarditis, blood clots, turbo cancers, menstrual irregularities, miscarriages, and the new died suddenly phenomena, then you're not paying attention. The culprit is spike protein. It's a lingering threat from both the and the man-made virus, linked to all kinds of long-term health issues. Even Fauci friends are now admitting that there are problems. So many people, myself included, are looking for answers and ways to stay healthy despite the spike that are parts of our population now. And while we know those answers won't ever come from mainstream sources, truth-seeking doctors like Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and their team at the Wellness Company have emerged to provide answers and hope. There's one question that these doctors are asked every single day: how do I detox from the protein left behind? And thanks to the Wellness Company, there's actually something we can do. Enter Spike Support. Spike Support's unique blend of natural ingredients aims to block and dissolve that protein in your body so you can get back to that pre-you-know-what feeling and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Their website has tons of testimonials from customers who are reporting increased mental clarity, energy levels, among many other things, whether they got poke or not. Reclaim your health at twc.health/TPP and use the code TPP for 10% at checkout. Again, that's twc.health/TPP. Code TPP. In this fight for truth and medical freedom, you owe it to yourself and your family to take back control of your health. Listen, this conversation is extremely important and that not enough people are talking about. These spikes cause a whole host of long-term issues that we're seeing happen in real time. Folks, if you've been with me for a while, do you remember when we did the tracker? Do you remember when we did the adverse tracker? Do you remember the relationship we found clear as day between age? And now that was just the tip of the iceberg. Well, the wellness company doctors provide answers and hope. Revolutionary supplement called the Spike Support Formula. Listen, you got to check it out. Go again one more time. twc.health/TPP. I can't tell you how many people ask me all the time, what do I do now? I did it. I listened. I never should have done it. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. What do I do now? Well, there you go. Super, super excited about it. It's sad that there's so few people out there willing to have this conversation. And it's sad that's even more. So few professionals are willing to offer any kind of solution, right? Isn't that pathetic? It's like, listen, okay, I get it a couple years ago, but here we are now, folks. Here we are now. All right. We got a lot of others when we asked about, generally speaking, which Christmas color scheme do you prefer? I don't think the weighting variables are going to change the answer to this very much because there are just so many. It was a blowout. That's why. All right. Red and green, traditional or signature, red and green won. Classic red and white came in number 2. Metallic silver and gold, 8. Victorian blue and white silver. Pink and champagne, rose gold. And that's the order it went in. But there's a ton of other responses dealing with other. And I'm going to put them in a word cloud because there's a lot of all the aboves, multicoloreds. There's also a lot that reminded me of like what Laura does. I think some people misunderstood, but I understand. Like, look at that answer right there. Traditional burlap with all the colors, red and black flannel and natural ornaments. So I think it was some people misunderstanding a little bit, but the red, white, and green mat is called classic red and green. And then, so yeah, there's solid white. A lot of people put in that. I'm going to add that. See, it's right there. You can see there's one right there, in fact. Yeah, so I think there was just some people who misunderstood, but then I also think that they're worth putting up there because Americans have some really, really, really cool Christmas decorating ideas. Really cool. I mean, super, super cool. And they're worth sharing. Speaking of ideas, and by the way, listen, this is not a company that I even advertise with. I don't. All right. So I'm just telling you this out of the bottom of my heart because it's true. Same thing like when I tell you I love Dr. Squatch Soap Company. I'm not being paid. I love Dr. Squatch Soap Company. All right. Every year, because Rome was not built in a day, and it's certainly not cheap. By no means is this company cheap. But every year we try to add more and more. God, my throat. To our collection. And at this point, we're like almost exclusively this company now because we've been doing it for years, like our own decorations. And then the kids, they have their own stuff. And by the way, the kids did their little tree last night. They're going to finish it. It's so cute. It's adorable. We got them a little real tree. Wait till you see the results of real versus artificial. And locals, you differ quite a bit on that. But in any event, I'm talking about Balsam Hill. Balsam Hills Company. It's based in New Jersey, my old stomping ground area, not that far from it. Wonderful company. You may know them if you watch Hallmark movies a lot or other Great American channel. I believe they're on Up Now and everything. Right. Great American actually has their thing now. So, oops, Hallmark, I'm telling you, better get with it. Better stop the woke crap. Better drop the woke crap. Next year, people aren't going to want to see that crap. You better learn your lesson this year. Because if you don't, you're in deep trouble. They lost like a ton of their actors to this other thing. Anyway, though. Oh, and plus there were people who were burned over how they abandoned Lori Loughlin. I'm sorry. I got to take a minute because it pisses me off what they did to Lori. Every liberal in the world can do what she did to get their kids in college. Barack Obama did it. Hallmark didn't stand by her at all. They dropped her like a bad habit. She is Mrs. Hallmark. You'd have been nothing without Lori. Getting heated, Laura. Anyway, so yesterday Laura and I get home, and there's this box waiting on the porch, right? And here it is. It's this beautiful wooden carved box. Beautiful. Yeah, there's always a scapegoat, Jonathan. Always a scapegoat. Filled with a ton of stuff. Reindeer noses, Holly Jolly Jingle Mix, which is filled with Christmas cookies of different varieties. Those white chocolate dip pretzels with sprinkles on them. There's also, as Garrett Archer, the he's the left wing guy, but he's Arizona data guru on Twitter. We get along even though we disagree on everything. He was like, look at those cookie dough bites. Oh my god. The reindeer noses are mini brownie bites, guys. So it was just a simple thank you. Balsam Hill this year started to really push a lot of their treats, their Christmas treat products. We get the scents, we get the decorations, but we never done this. I'll tell you what, after what they did here, I will. And again, it's not cheap, so you got to budget right. But I'll tell you, wow, you know, I'm a loyal customer. And there's no doubt over the years we've bought a lot. But stupid little things like this make me holly jolly. Just a little gesture. The card says, hey, Rich, you're a valued customer, and we just wanted to tell you that we noticed you over the years. Thank you for being such a good customer. Merry Christmas. It made our night. I'm telling you. If you go on their site and look up how much all this crap is that they threw in this box together, not to mention the box is beautiful, beautifully crafted, smells wonderful. Such a nice idea. 'Tis the season. Speaking of which, before we go, because I know I got to get ready for what are the odds, and I want to get you guys the crosstabs ASAP. We didn't get a whole lot of ideas about charities this year. So I'm going to stick with the one we used last year as my charity reco of the year for those who are first responders, veterans, things like that. That know people that may be going through something. It could be alcoholism, drug addiction. Maybe they're just going through some psychological problems because they had a bad fire or a bad shoot or something like that on the street. If you know somebody who needs any help, people at Phoenix Strong have done a lot for apparently quite a few people. And Laura and I like to give what we can to them once a year at the end of the year. They're good people, really great people. So that would be that one. And then for us, Laura and I always have, we've done it for years before we even stopped watching Fox. The kids always have a place in our hearts. Kids are so strong. Go visit kids fighting the fight at St. Jude's. You know, cancer is a terrible disease. Horrible. I hate it. I hate that disease. It's bad enough that you can get it when you get older. And it's, I mean, that's one thing though. When you get older, these children are so strong. It's ridiculous. So there's that. And then kids are just assault. Laura and I, if we had the money, I would build a like 8,000 square foot mansion and I would foster half a state if I could. I'm not kidding. Laura and I love children that much. And I don't like seeing kids get a bad rap. So when it comes to cancer, it's St. Jude's, and really do love Shriners when it comes to some really weird conditions. But yeah, we just got different stories from different people and couldn't really connect this year like we were able to last year with the folks at Phoenix Strong. I took the time to really like, look, I need to make sure that you're not that you're not viable. I just need to. There have been a lot of charities over the years, folks, that you've seen on Fox and other places that say they're doing this for vets, say they're doing that, and get hit with scandals like everyone's got a new iPad before the iPad even comes out. Like, I'm not doing that, And yeah, St. Jude is incredible. Shriners, incredible. You'll never go wrong with them. And then if you want somebody Phoenix Strong is Maricopa County. It's in Arizona, and they really help first responders who are going through a lot. One story in particular from last year hit me, and I was like, "That's it. That's what I'm looking for." And again, they did something that others weren't willing to do, which is really allow you to get to know them. And I have to do that, you know. Um, I will warn you though, you get involved with like St. Jude or something like that, they're going to send you these progress updates with some of these kids, and um, it's great to see when somebody is helped. It really sucks when someone loses a fight, and I'm just giving you that right now, especially when you go to the level that we do. But um, do what you can, because I've seen people. When you're talking about Matt St. Jude's, like cancer, I've seen grown men leave this world with less dignity than some of these children. They're just so brave. It's just amazing. It's amazing. You're talking about this Christmas poll and religion, and they just haven't seen the world, I think, the way that we have seen it. And when you can make something like that happen for a kid, all they see still in their worst time is the goodness in other human beings. And we're all old and cynical, and we've seen a lot of bad, and that, I think, the most tragic thing that could happen to a child in that position is to be exposed to letdowns, to be exposed to how this world can abandon you, when you need the most, or when your family needs the most. And maybe that's part of it. But again, the bravery that these kids have puts us all to shame, and something. It's just really something. I love them. I love them. They'll always have a place in my heart. And like I said, the better I do, the better they'll do. That's for sure. And that should be the way we all feel about that. All right. So, yes, Virginia, Christmas is about Christ. Indeed, it is. I'm going to go get ready, get the artwork and stuff ready for What Are the Odds? Don't miss it. It's going to be at 2 o'clock, right in an hour, literally. I'm going to spend half of that time processing what I can for the poll, and the other half getting ready for the show. So be there, be square, get ready for it to be shared. Again, like the videos. If you like the videos, folks, share it far and wide. Share the public polling project far and wide. Laura and I always like to give our audience a bit of a Christmas present. That's what this Christmas poll is. A part of it, obviously, because, we don't have to tell you. But I like, that we every year love to get to the point where, locals it's just the locals poll. There is no crowdfunding. It is what it is. And that's the goal. Hey, don't forget, Matt, 2 p.m. If you can't make it, don't forget to check the replay of it, because Barnes and I haven't done something together for a while. So it should be pretty good, even with me sounding like this. But that's great, because Barnes can talk. In case you guys have never watched, or what are the odds? Barnes can talk as much as me. So if my voice gets a little bit, tired, he can handle it. But I think you guys are going to be blown away by the results of this poll. This will be the first national poll where we put up a national map for Biden v. Trump, and you'll be able to see their support all across the board. It is going to take a bit, because when we process the crosstabs, it's very easy for us to just say, hey, listen, question 9 and 10, or whatever it may be, 10 or 11, we asked about Biden v. Trump with undecided. The next one was a follow-up for those who said they were undecided. It's very simple to make what's called a regrouping variable, or a multiple response variable, which is one I like to use, which then will just show you what happens when you have those people decide. But when we do it on the map, we're going to have to literally create a spreadsheet where, for 3,000 people, we're going to have to manually insert what their lean was. It sucks. I don't know another way to do it. But we need a single column that shows their total vote. So you may see and hover on them. It'll say Biden v. Trump, two-way or head-to-head, we're probably going to call it. And it'll say undecided. Then in the next row in the tooltip, when you hover on the dot, it's going to say head-to-head was undecided. Below that, lean Biden, lean Trump, whatever. And then that's going to be that way for all three scenarios that all four. Wasn't it four we offered? Four presidential ballot scenarios that we offered. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So I figured crosstab first, and we'll go after that from there. The presidential primary, that will come out first, the map for that. What to say? There's two very big findings. I'm talking about top line findings. Two very big top line findings. And then there's a bunch of really significant findings where inside the numbers, right? So get ready for that. All right. And then the general election, there's just so much to talk about in this poll. The general election's a big freaking deal. Big deal. There is a first for big data poll. The history of big data polling. Let me put it this way: polling Trump in presidential races, which we've done since 2016. Obviously, it was the tracking poll for PPD back then, but there is a first for I don't want to give it away, but there's a first since we ever began polling Donald Trump for the presidential election, and it's a big first. It's a statistically significant first, and I didn't think if we were going to get to this point, I didn't think it would be this quick. I really didn't. Not 10 months out. Really did not. Or now, what, 11 and a half months out? I did not think that we would be there 11 and a half months out. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks. I'll see you at 2. Don't miss it. And we'll talk more about the Christmas poll. Don't forget to like and share. If you like the videos, like them. Share them far and wide. And then, of course, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. You don't have to for Rumble, though, so it would be great, even if you're not going to watch it there, to mosey on over to Rumble, to like the video, subscribe there as well. It really does help. And then the same goes vice versa with Rumble. It would be great, guys, if you still had your YouTube account, go over and like it, share it. All of those metrics definitely help creators like us. But, of course, the best place to follow us is on Locals. peoplespundit.locals.com. You'll get everything first there, including this poll. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, I will see you guys in an hour or so. All right, stay cool. Don't dip. Deuces.